All right, ladies and gents, we are live from. I'm out in Woodlock, Pennsylvania for the holiday, and this is not my usual setup, obviously. Um, got a nice picture of a buck here, if anybody was wondering. I know you can't see the whole thing, but welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for joining us. The busy holiday season is here, and Dave's jumping on with us early today because he's a busy man and he's got a lot going on. So joining me now is NHL insider David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period and the Daily Faceoff Insider Edition podcast. David, what's up, buddy?
How are you, bud? Happy Thanksgiving. Sorry, I messed this up. I pulled an audible on you. I apologize. Lots going on this morning, so I'm
Yeah.
Thankful that you can accommodate.
Yeah, for sure. Congrats on breaking the Mike Matheson extension. That's good news for the Habs. 5 years, if you guys did not see that. But David broke that this morning. But we have a lot to talk about with David. A lot going on in the NHL right now, in the NHL sphere. Even if it's not directly related to the New Jersey Devils, a lot going on in Vancouver right now. But before I get there, David, the first question I have for you is you're the guy on the inside. Can you confirm that it was the back of the head of Tate McRae sitting with Jack Hughes in New York City that night?
I did not venture too deeply into that to get confirmation. It seems like it was, according to the internet, but I did not ask Jack or his agent Pepperzon, or I don't even know anyone on Tate's team. But
yeah.
I mean, good if it's if it's them, good for them. I'm sure they're enjoying themselves and having a great time.
All right, let's get to the hockey. So, what's going on in Vancouver is unfortunate for Canucks fans right now, but it has Devils fans salivating out of the mouth. Let's just talk about, we heard about Quinn Hughes is not available, but what does this mean for his future right now?
Well, he holds all the cards here in this scenario, in any scenario that as it relates to his future. This is a tricky one because I think he has some type of no trade protection. Let's put it this way. So they hold all the cards first and foremost if the Canucks even want to explore anything. And it might not be this season, but I think in his last year. That being said, right now, they just need to regroup and kind of fill their cupboard up a little bit by getting younger, by adding more draft picks, which is what they'd like to do, which is why they're going to listen on all their pending UFAs. They're going to listen on guys like Drew O'Connor with 1 year left on his deal, limited no trade clause. They're going to listen on Connor Garland for the time being. His no move doesn't kick in until July 1 of next summer. So they're going to listen on some players and actively have made others available. And the big prize is Kiefer Sherwood. And he hits 3 check marks. He hits goal scoring. He hits people. He's very physical. And he hits the $1.5 million cap hit. Like, that's a sweetheart of a deal. To get all of those in, I know there were talks, I've been saying all week, like there have been talks of second-round pick. No, this is a first-round pick plus. And the if you're getting this player, you're probably one of the top, let's say, 8 teams in the league. So you're looking at a draft pick that's going to be in the high 20s in the first round. Some teams will view that as very palatable. And if you go on to win it, it's 32nd overall. Awesome. Great. It's basically a second. So they're going to fine-tune this. And you can't tell me that Quinn Hughes doesn't know that they're going through these motions based on what's happened this season. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's well aware of their direction. And I think he did an interview yesterday with Sportsnet, I believe, and said that the stuff doesn't bother him. The trade stuff doesn't bother him. He just wants to focus on, his game and helping his team.
So some are speculating that he could end up somewhere else, meaning Quinn Hughes. How likely do you think that is? We've heard Philadelphia, somewhere in the Metro that's not the Devils. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's 31 other teams that would love to get their hands on Quinn Hughes. I just don't see it now. And I get, one day I get one interesting response that maybe he's going to stay, and then the next day I get another one where it's like, oh, maybe he may go. it's either way. It's way too early. They're not going to trade him right now, unless somebody comes out of left field with, a Hakeem Olajuwon type of drop with an offer. It's just not going to happen. I kept my hand up there way too long. It's just not going to happen. So if Quinn Hughes is moved, it's a team comes out of nowhere and says, we're giving you this, 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 and this, and yes or no. Or this is something they explore in the summer once they re-engage in contract negotiations. At the same time, going through all this, I believe the Canucks know what it's going to take to sign Quinn Hughes to an extension when they're eligible to do that in July. And I think they're fine with whatever that number is going to be. It's going to be high. So they're trying to fill other areas here and look at other ways to improve this club to get them back on the upswing, because the last couple of years have been not good.
Yeah, for sure. You're listening to David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period and Daily Faceoff Insider Edition. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to contribute to the conversation, please drop it in the chat. David, you mentioned some of the names that might be available. I think one of those names out of Vancouver could be of interest to the Devils. I look at a guy like Teddy Bluger. The center depth is not the best in New Jersey right now. I look at a guy, like you said, Kiefer Sherwood, who hits everything, and that's something maybe the Devils could use. Any interest there that you know of from somebody not named Quinn Hughes in Vancouver?
Yeah, both hit the mark for the Devils in terms of the players that would benefit them and that they would, I would imagine, have interest in. I think, yeah, the Jack Hughes injury sucks, and that he's out for whatever it is, total of 8 weeks. But you're not going to get somebody that's going to slot in there for the time being, and it's going to cost you nothing. So I think they if there's a depth addition they can make to their bottom six, like a Bluger who's hurt right now, then I think that might be the more likely type of move that New Jersey would consider sooner, like in the relative immediate, between now and the end of the calendar year, for example. I think later on, they're going to look to see what type of big impact addition they can make. They may not be able to do it, but I fully expect Tom Fitzgerald to be engaged in some of the big fish that might be out there. So whether it's, Marchessault or Stamkos in Nashville, or like those caliber, kind of players, Braden Shen in St. Louis, they're going to have to make money work. If it's this guy like Stammer, Nashville's going to have to eat, and we've gotten some pushback that they may not want to do that, so he may end up staying, whether it's Jersey or somewhere else. But I think they're going to be engaged in those types of conversations. Again, they may not be able to, pull it off. They may not have the assets these teams want, and they may not be willing to give up what these teams may be asking for. But I do expect, Fitzgerald and company to be engaged in that market and then determine what they're going to do if they are adding within their top six.
So you mentioned that, between now and the end of the calendar year, do you believe we could see some active trade activity going on between now and then? Do you think things are going to pick up, or are the Olympics a factor here?
The Olympics are interesting because, sorry, I'm just checking some quick messages.
Yeah.
The Olympics are interesting because it's like a quasi deadline. And as far as I know, and I kept checking the rule book on this, and I kept checking the leagues, all the information the league provides. There's no roster freeze to my knowledge. At least it's not listed. The only roster freeze is within the holiday period. So if that is accurate and true and whatnot, and I've reached out to a couple people at the league just to make sure, you can still make those moves within that time period. Now, the benefit of doing it then is there's more of a period, more of a grace period for teams, for players to get reacclimated with their new teams. And that's going to, that's important. You don't have to rush. Guys can just kind of ease into it. Like everyone's going on vacation, is not going to the Olympics, but then afterwards, you're still going to have 10 days at least to figure out your new surroundings. It just makes things easier. And a lot of teams would be interested in doing that. Now, every GM will tell you, if there's an opportunity to make my team better today, I'll do it today. But we also know that everybody likes to work on deadlines. So I do expect some activity going into the Olympic break and within that period, because keep in mind, when we come back from the Olympic break, it ends on February 25th. It's 13 days till the trade deadline, less than 2 weeks. So some teams are going to want to try to get creative earlier.
Dave, quick 60 seconds, and then we'll get you out of here. I know you got somewhere to be. Simone Nemec, is he playing his way to untouchable outside of maybe Quinn Hughes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I don't know this definitively because I haven't talked to anyone within the Devils about this specifically. But the way that he's playing, I don't even know if that would be a consideration with respect to Quinn Hughes or another player in terms of packaging him up, because you're going to have to add a lot more. If I'm Vancouver, that's who I want. If they broach that subject, but he's really stepped up his game lately. As I don't need to explain it to all you guys, like you see this more than I do, but he's really becoming and evolving into the player that they thought they were drafting. And he's on pace for about 50 points right now. He's really gone on that heater lately, so I would be surprised if there's any consideration to move him for anybody.
Dave, you're the best. Thank you for making this work for us today, and we'll catch up again soon.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
There he goes, David Pagnotta of the Fourth Period and the Daily Faceoff Podcast Insider Edition. And look, you just heard it from him. Simone Nemec might be off the table for anybody, which is just an incredible development based on where things started for Simone Nemec coming into this season. Lots of question marks about him, and now all of a sudden he's a guy maybe you can't move even for a Quinn Hughes. So it makes you wonder, who are some guys that the Canucks are going to look at, say in a potential trade, where they'll say, all right, this is something that we'll do. And look, maybe it's few and far between. You could maybe say, are they interested in Anton Silyev? Are they willing to let him develop? What's their timeline after trading him? Is it a guy like Dougie Hamilton? Is that something that the Canucks consider? What's their timeline with him in the fold? Is that something they want to do? So lots of interesting developments on that front with Simone Nemec. I mean, look, he continues to step up in an increased role. Over the last few games, it's hard to deny. He's, I don't know, is he a number one for the team right now? I mean, they're putting him in the most high pressure situations. I mean, another overtime winner last night or 2 nights ago. I mean, Sheldon keeps behind the bench saying, this is a crucial moment. Who am I going to put out there? I'm tapping Nemec on the 21-year-old. I mean, it's incredible stuff. He's joining the rush. He's getting involved in the cycle. I mean, the confidence he has is obvious just in his, his body language. He's making passes that are crisp. He's not second guessing himself. He's jumping up on plays with confidence and then getting back to position and not leaving, his defending partner in the dust. This is something that used to happen less than 6 months ago. So it really is just an incredible development here with Nemec. I mean, you can see the intelligence, right? It's just getting better and better each game. You can't say enough about Simone Nemec right now and what he is providing for the Devils. I mean, where would they be without him right now? Do they have these overtime wins, which is 4 crucial points right now with how close everything is in the Metropolitan Division? Maybe not. You can even add another 2 points onto that because he got them to an overtime game. I believe it was against the Islanders, where he scored late in the third period and he sent them to overtime. Now the Islanders won, but he got them the point. So, it's really just it's incredible to see how well Simone Nemec has been developing this year. And I asked Jeff Marek a couple weeks ago, is this the guy the Devils thought they were getting in the second overall pick in 2022? And without hesitation, yes, this is the guy. He was doing things in Slovakia that were unheard of. And look, bit of an adjustment coming to North America, but he's still just 21 years old. And, a lot of the experts that I talk to, everybody says you don't give up on guys that are still developing, especially on the blue line, too early. You have to be 100% sure. If you're 99% sure, don't do it. And the Devils didn't. You heard some murmurs last season, which, look, I did debunk those. I spoke to them. It's myself, and I said, "Is there any concern for you? Are you unhappy or anything like that?" No, no. But those whispers came up, and you did wonder. But no, he's completely happy, and I would imagine he's much more happy now. So, he and Luke, by the way, have become an incredible pairing. That's something that was nightmare fuel last year. They were turnover after turnover. Um, they put themselves out of position. These things aren't happening now. Luke's able to slide over to his left natural position. Nemitz is on the right. Everybody's playing in their spot where they're supposed to be. You're talking about a 21 and 22-year-old who can now develop together as a top pair. And you're almost now talking about a conversation of who's going to develop into the number one. Do we have two number ones? Look, it's a great, great situation. I don't know if it's a problem because they're both going to play no matter what. They're both going to be in the lineup, but it's a great situation to have. So you're looking at two guys um, who are the future of the blue line, but they're also kind of the now. That's the interesting thing is they're kind of the now. They're making it happen out there. Dougie Hamilton's healthy. They're not tapping him on the shoulder first. They're tapping Simone Nemitz first. Luke Hughes leads the team in time on ice every night. Every night. We'll see what happens when Brett Pesci gets back. But I mean, look, I've seen a lot of discourse on Luke Hughes. He's been playing on the right side, out of position, the most minutes on the team. And I think he's handled it swimmingly. I mean, you couldn't ask for more from him. Yeah, you want more points. I understand that. He's on the other side of his natural position. His handedness is on the other side. You have to have a little bit of patience with a guy who's playing out of position. And I know all the hype right now is around Nemitz, and rightfully so. Justified. But Luke Hughes is providing almost as much, maybe, if not the same quality as Simone Nemitz right now. So Devils fans have a lot to be happy about with those two right now. Definitely have a lot to be happy about. All right, this is James Nichols, Devils Rink Report, coming to you live from Woodlock, Pennsylvania. I will not be in Buffalo tonight, here celebrating the holiday with my family, but I will be back tomorrow in against Philadelphia. And if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns they want to drop in the chat, we're going to get to that later. Please make sure to submit your questions, your concerns, anything you want to contribute to the show. We will be reading those live. All right. Moving on. So let's talk let's talk about Jacob Markstrom. He's been a hot topic button for sure. It maybe seems like, he's found some stability in the crease. I know that first goal last night, you look at that and you say, okay, maybe he does want that back. Look, we know he's good for that every now and then, right? He'll let in a softie. But 53 of 58 saves for a 913 save percentage in the past two games. 12 out of 15 in high danger saves and 850 percentage. 2.34 goals save above expected. At 5-on-5, he stopped 39 of 42 pucks, almost a 930 save percentage. Or 6 of 8 at high danger, which is 750, which is above league average. And then a .85 goal save above expected at 5-on-5. These are good numbers. These are numbers that you expect of Jacob Markstrom, and you hope that he can continue to, go in that or trend in that direction. And look, it's not unlike what we have seen from him in his history, not even just with the Devils, but, with the Flames and with the Canucks when he was a Vancouver Canuck way back when, if you can remember that even. But this is pretty on brand for Jacob Markstrom. You saw what he did last winter in the 24-25 season. He was Vezina-like in November and December before he was hurt. And then when he came back, was he the same? No. Was he bad? By no means. So this is what you want. This is on brand for Markstrom. It looks like maybe he's turning a corner here. You hope he is. And look, if not, yeah, Jake Allen has, had a flop or two this year, but he's mostly been very reliable. very reliable. So you should feel good about the goaltending situation right now. And if all stays the same, I mean, we should be looking at a Devils team that is trending upward right now, have some injuries to overcome, but the goaltending looking the way it is certainly a positive. And moving forward, you only hope to get healthier as the games go on. I know it seems like everybody's dropping like flies. We got a condensed schedule here, and that might be a factor. But the goaltending should encourage you. Okay, we gave up, the Devils gave up a few bad goals during um, the game against the Red Wings, and look, they found a way to win. Am I misspeaking right now? I think I might actually be misspeaking. Am I talking about? Give me 1 second here as I navigate to my score sheet. Um, these games all blend together. So yes, okay. So yes, okay. We're talking about against the Red Wings here, namely the JVR goal when he was left uncovered at top of the crease. Some of these defensive lapses you want to just clean up, and look, for the most part, the Devils have worked, one, underhanded because of the injuries, but two, um, it's been plug and play, and maybe that's part of it. But Bradshaw has done, I mean, from the start of the season to now, has done a really good job of keeping them tight. And the blunders do happen sometimes, and that's when you hear Sheldon Keefe say, "We're still not there yet." There's been plenty of times where he said, "Look, this is who we are. We play a little bit inconsistent. We are the best when we are the best, and when we're not, we're the worst." And that's straight from him. So, um, just a couple notes there on, how at this point the defense is still working through its kinks, trying to get healthy. Brett Pesce is obviously a huge part of that. But you get some volatile stretches from Markstrom that certainly help in that area and mask some of those issues. So when he's having average games, it's hard to complain because he masks actually a few areas of, I guess, inconsistency is the best way to put it. Not all the time, but most of the time. You just want him to clean up those soft the soft goals that he lets in sometimes. All right, let's talk about Nico Hischier because many were wondering, is Nico Hischier hurt? Devils captain has not been on the score sheet. He looks like he's maybe a step behind the play and everything. He's been fantastic. I believe it's 3 goals in his last 3 games, just like Timo Meyer. Must be something about the Swiss, but he's played incredible. Sorry, 4 goals in his last 3 games. He's got 8 points in that span. I mean, you're looking at a rebound here where now all of a sudden Nico Hischier is playing lights out hockey. And look, there's been a lot of, is he a number one center? He's in the shadow of Jack Hughes, yada yada. Look, I mean, he was a first overall pick too. And was it the strongest draft? No, I'll concede to that. But is he still a first line center? Would he be a first line center on many teams? Absolutely. We needed somebody to step up without Jack Hughes, and Nico Hischier's been that man. Um, and 8 points in 3 games and playing phenomenal defensively. You take that all day. Right now, he's on a points pace for almost 30, 75 points. Is that his goal total from last year? It's 5 less. It's similar to what he was on pace for. 69. I mean, actually, he's on pace for more points. He scored 69 last year with 35 goals. He's on pace for 75. So you take that all day. He's been phenomenal. The Devils have needed him. But another man who's been phenomenal is Timo Meyer. 3 goals, 2 assists in his last 3 games. He's opened the scoring in each of those games for the Devils as well. Now, albeit against the, you know, Philadelphia Flyers, he scored on the power play, and then all of a sudden, the team unraveled, and that was a concerning game for sure. But they turned it around after that, and they got home, won the next 2 games, which was encouraging to see. So they lost 3 in a row. Now they've won 2 in a row. They're in Buffalo tonight, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But these are trends that you want to see turn themselves around. Now there is something to talk about: home versus road. Are they just enjoying the home cooking that much more and struggling on the road because, they don't like playing on the road? Typically, it's actually been the other way around. So it's interesting to see. But again, guys like Hischier and Meyer have stepped up and filled the roles that have been left by, or I guess filled the stat sheet that has been left void by Jack Hughes. And look, when he gets healthy and these guys are still in the lineup, you want to see everybody contributing in an even spread. So, and which is what they were doing before, Jack Hughes went down with injury. A little slow start from um, Nico Hischier, but Timo was going well, and he went missing a little bit there, but not as long as he could have. We've seen him go through longer stretches, and he's been really strong lately. So you love to see that for sure from Timo. Um, that whole line, except for maybe Brat, has been excellent, but Brat, he's never struggled, quote unquote, right? Unless maybe from his rookie year. He's been consistent as it can be as a Devil. But I mean, he had 3 assists versus the Flyers. That's something that is just going to happen because of the skill level from him. We're talking about a slow start for Brat, 3 assists against the Flyers, right? Um, so he's not scored since the win in Montreal on November 6th. So he definitely wants to get that monkey off of his back. But I mean, at least he's setting guys up and he's getting his chances. It's not like he's not getting his chances. So a little bit snake bitten there. It feels like that might drop. The other shoe there might drop soon. Palat, Mercer, and Grisiuk, the second line, looks real strong. Um, and that happened, plug your ears, after they elevated Palat to the second line. Look, it is what it is. You can't deny what happens. And what happened is Keefe said, you know what? It's time for Palat to go up and for Connor Brown to move down. That shifts Grisiuk over to the right wing. And again, the only person playing at a position there is Dawson Mercer, who is typically a winger, but he's playing well with Palat and Grisiuk on his line. 16 minutes time on ice in the last 2 games, 24-13 Corsi differential, or in more simple terms, scoring chances. Um, I should just say attempts, scoring attempts, because the scoring chances are 9-6 in their favor, and again that's over 50%, and you'll take that all day. The thing about that line is Palat looks kind of fast. I mean, he never wasn't fast. Sorry, let me rephrase. He was never slow, but he looks like he's keeping pace with Grisiuk and Mercer, who we know can, you know, blaze on the ice a little bit there. So it's been good to see. Now, if he could just score, I mean, he had a couple chances. He was in all alone on, I believe it was Monday when they returned against the Red Wings. He was in all alone on Cam Talbot and just shot it right to his chest. He couldn't pull out any fancy moves or anything like that, which we don't come to expect out of him. But he couldn't at least get 5-hole there. And look, that's just who he is at this point. He's the guy, and I know everybody hates to hear it. He just wins his board battles. He pushes the puck up to the other end of the ice, and gets it to the guys who are going to make something happen. Um, and that is who Andre Palat is. So he's fit in nicely there. Um, you kind of need him to score because you need that depth. But until he, plays his way off of that line, he's a good complement to that duo right now in Mercer and Grisiuk. So the Devils press on with Palat playing there. Um, One thing that happened this week was Cody Glass came back. That was huge because it really stabilized. And look, not that Cody Glass is this elite player that makes the whole team better around him, but he's a stabilizer, right? Having him on the third line, he goes real well with Connor Brown. Um, and so they look really good right now. And unfortunately, Dadnov, he's hurt. We'll talk about that later. But Lamico comes in, and I know I've said it before. I don't really think Lamico provides all that much, but Glass and Brown as a duo, they provide a lot. They do real well for themselves. And you saw the other night that Brown scored that goal that caromed off of the end board and found him in front of the net. It was kind of an assist from the end board. Um, which came as an assist from Mercer, but it just shows you, they're sticking to that pack mentality. Their system is working well, and he scores the first goal he has since coming off an injury there. So Glass has been real positive for this lineup, both before he was injured and now after the injury. When he comes back, you just see how much of a boost that is, and you needed him back in the lineup. And look, he's 12 for 18 in the faceoff dot. That's huge because they weren't winning many faceoffs without him too. And the thing is, he keeps scoring. Every time he comes back from injury, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to score my first goal since returning again. Um, his shot is really underrated. He gets it off the stick really quickly, and it looks like he's not that he's trying. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, he's overconscious of the offense and trying to score more goals. But it just looks like maybe it's coming more naturally for him, which is certainly a positive development for Cody Glass. He was drafted as an two-way guy. His development in the NHL thus far has been that of a elite defensive forward, but now he's starting to add that offense in. And maybe you can, tribute that to playing with a guy like Brown who has that offensive touch. Um, Before that, it was like guys like Nason was going well with that line. Palat was another part of that line that was going well. So when everybody's healthy, I would assume Palat goes back down and plays with him again while Jack Hughes is back at center and Mercer slides over to the wing. And that's when I think that line is at full capacity. So we will see how how he develops throughout the season. But so far, so good, and you just want him to stay healthy. Um, all right, let's talk about Dougie Hamilton. Who could he still be playing injured? Is a question because undeniably that shot from the blue line when it's a power play or they just need a puck to get to the net, it is elite. But he doesn't look like the Dougie Hamilton that was playing so well before he was injured. 1 assist in 5 games since returning against Tampa. Still playing 21 minutes a night and still on both special teams. But you wonder, is something bothering him there? His defensive side of the puck was never great, but it was better this season. And now it kind of looks weaker again. Don't want to call it weak, just weaker. But it could have a lot to do with just the role that was usurped by Simon Nemec. It could have a lot to do with, him and Luke Hughes playing first pair minutes, first specialty unit minutes. That's the thing, is his role might have been usurped here. And, you want to see a bigger sample, but that's what puts, guys like Hamilton in question in New Jersey. He has a few seasons left on his deal at $9 million. We know that the Devils have another $9 million man now in Luke Hughes. And guess what? Simon Nemec is due a contract this summer. It's going to be real interesting to see how that goes, right? You heard it earlier. He might be untouchable at this point, even for Quinn Hughes. You know, does he follow suit with some of these new contracts that are coming through, these big contracts coming through, $9-10 million a year? Are they going to pay him more than Luke Hughes? No, but would I be surprised to see him coming right under 8.85? That's a number that I just thought of off the top of my head. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest that we see Simon Nemec get, and that's a factor that maybe many didn't consider that is coming this summer. That Nemec has a contract that they're going to have to sign. Um, and they do get a bit of cap space this summer with both the increase in the salary cap, but also some contracts coming off the books. Let's see the projection for this summer, 26, 27, is they're going to have $11 million plus 11.125. Ooh, you could see a good chunk of that going to Simon Nemec for sure. Um, I mean, who else is it going to go to? They're not going to give it to who's going to be. I mean, I could see Lamico being gone, Dadonov gone. Luke Glendening, if they gave him another year at minimum, I could see that Paul Cotter is RFA. He's arbitration eligible. I don't think he's going to break the bank with the way he's playing right now. Colton White is a free agent. He can go. Dennis Cholowski is a free agent. He can go. And the goaltending is locked up. So yeah, that 11 million and change, a good portion of that could go to Simone Nemec. Are they going to bridge him? Prove it? Maybe that's the smart route. Or do they recognize this is the player that we expected and we know he's going to continue developing in this direction? How much is he going to get? I mean, you can clip me now if you want. 8.85 is my number over, I think it has to be 7 years at that point, right? I think that's when it changes. So maybe that's the number. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, with Nemitz playing the way he has been, I think this summer is a summer where we start talking about, I know it came up a little bit last summer, but this summer coming up, I think is one where we start talking about, okay, where do we see Dougie Hamilton going? Because all these defensemen, you can't pay everybody. Um, and do they give up on a guy, or do they not give up on, but do they give up a Simone Nemitz in a deal for someone else? I can't see it being for anyone other than Quinn Hughes. But even then, you heard it from David himself. Maybe not even then. And you wonder, how does Quinn Hughes get to New Jersey? I guess we'll find out. Last note here, Dadonov injury, like we said, he suffered it on Monday against Detroit. He wasn't um he wasn't a concern or on the radar the night of. It happened against that physical game against the Red Wings, which I do want to talk about because we kind of glanced over it, and I do want to hammer down on a few points there. But there was no concern for him that night, and then the next morning he woke up, and that's just how it's been for him. Didn't get better; he got worse. That's happened twice for him now. So you hope to see that he can come back at some point relatively soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's after the holiday with the way Sheldon Keefe sounded about that injury. So we will see. At this point, you're going to see more Juho Lammikko, I think. Is that great? I He's fine, I guess. You don't notice him one way or another, so I guess that's good. But it could be a little bit here for Dadonov, which is unfortunate. I mean, you saw him paired with Jack and Bratt. He was a guy who you thought could go on the first line, maybe be some sort of Tyler Toffoli light, score a bunch of goals next to two playmakers because that's his MO. He could score goals, but he just hasn't been able to get it going here in New Jersey. So that's a bit disappointing. I do want to touch on that Detroit game. The Detroit game was an encouraging one for me because scary incident early. Nico Hischier, he gets hit and goes down, and it looks like, uh-oh. That reminded me of the Alexander Romanov hit, where now he's out 5-6 months. Thank goodness he came back, and came back pretty quickly, and obviously has been in the lineup every night since. And he's looked good. He's looked strong. But, that was a concern for sure. But it was really good to see the way he pushed back himself and the team pushed back. I mean, Stefan Nason stepped up in a huge way, huge way. Just getting JT Comfort to drop the gloves as soon as he left the box. I mean, listen, he did get sprung for that breakaway, and thank goodness he didn't score a goal. But Stefan Nason stepping up there and making him answer the bell was important. And the rest of the game got chippy there. You saw the Siegenthaler Lucas Raymond development. Siegenthaler claimed that he was turning to go to the bench and didn't see him there. Replay says, maybe he gave him a little bit of a shoulder, leaned into him a little bit. So, we'll we'll see what happens when these two teams meet again in March. But I thought it was really important for the Devils to have that kind of game in during the season to show that, listen, we're not going to get pushed around. And that's why I think a guy like Kiefer Sherwood would be a huge add, by the way, for the Devils. I know they're clogged on the wings. There's a lot going on there. How long is Dadonov going to be gone for? Is he going to hit the LTIR? We'll see. And then maybe you get that money in relief because, you get three and change on LTIR. And maybe that's the relief the Devils need to get Kiefer Sherwood. Um, and he slots in real well here. He's a guy who can play a depth role, score a bunch of goals, and hit everything. And that's the elbow grease the Devils want to see in their lineup. now and in the playoffs. The long-term storyline here in the Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier era has been this team is small, not physical. Add Sherwood. He's not the biggest, but he hits everything. He's a little lightning rod, little bull in a china shop there, and he makes it work real well for himself. All right, we're gonna read a few comments. We don't have too many here. We're gonna keep it quick because it is the holiday, Black Friday. I hope everybody's doing their shopping. I know I have already spent a little bit too much this morning, or I should say, my wife has, just using my money. But anyway, if anybody has any questions they want to drop in the chat, anything they want to address before we go off the air, just be sure to do that right now, and we will get to your comments. But we have a few here. First, from, if you want to bring it up, Sean from Sonic. 9123. Love these shows. Thanks for doing this. I'm eager to see what kind of marquee we get in 26. My friends and I are a bit worried we are getting off. We're getting his off here. Sorry. We need him if we are going to make the cup run. Yeah, listen, it's hard for me to assess Markstrom in the second half of the season based on his tenure in New Jersey, because last year he was out for the start of 26 and he came back and he was just okay. Um, but historically, he has been an excellent goaltender throughout the season. Yes, he has had his hiccups, but I don't think it's, a first half of the season, second half of the season thing for Markstrom. I think it's just he's really good. Um, you know, After he gets warmed up and his feet under him from the beginning of the season, I think November on, he's the same goaltender throughout the year. Has these really strong moments, and then has these moments where grind your teeth and you scoff a little bit, and you're like, "What was that?" That's not something a number one goaltender gives up, you know. But I think what you'll get is a goaltender, especially in the playoffs. That's something I can speak to. We saw him in the playoffs last year, and he was very, very good. If I'm not mistaken, his numbers were actually really, really high. Um, but again, he's a game breaking goaltender when he wants to be. When the Devils need him to be in the playoffs, he rose to the occasion last year. Yeah, 911 save percentage and a 278 goal against average. Um, and that's his second best year in the postseason. In 2019-20 with the Canucks, he had a 919 save percentage and 285 goals against average. But he's always been above a 900 save percentage. He's always been under a 3 goals against average in the playoffs. So I think in 26, he will be he'll be fine. He'll be the same goaltender you're seeing in the past few games. He'll be the goaltender who wins you games, and he'll also be the goaltender who you'll sit there and say, I kind of hope that next time he sees a low danger chance like that, he stops it. You know, it'll have you questioning him for sure, but then you'll be on your feet if you're at the Rock with a pad stack that you didn't expect on the breakaway or on an odd man rush that he stops, right? So that's the kind of goaltender he is. And thank you for the kind words, by the way, for saying that you love these shows. And we're happy to be doing this, like we say all the time. Give us a reason to keep doing them. Give us a reason to do more. If you like this, drop the link on Twitter, drop it, on any social medias, and recommend that people subscribe. We're always going to have great guests. We're always going to have lots of Devils hockey to talk about. So thank you so much for coming and watching today, and thank you for the kind words. A reminder here from Sean Harrington, producer Sean, saying that Gritsik needs a deal this summer. And I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day, and I was wondering, what kind of deal they could see a guy like him getting. Now, granted, take this with a grain of salt because the sample is very small. All we have heard or seen from him, sorry, is some good offensive prowess and a complete player. He's not elite in anything, at least not yet. 24 years old, he still has time to grow. But he's very good at a lot of things, or all the things that he does. However, we have seen, and there is, I should say, there is more reason to believe he can be consistent and carve out an NHL career. But we have seen KHL to NHL imports who have not panned out. Nikita Gusev, namely. And he was a guy who didn't really play defense, right? Maybe that was his downfall. But he had 50 points or almost 50 points in his rookie season, and then he fell off. So you could see a situation here where Gritsuk is bridged by Fitzgerald. I would not be surprised. 2-year, 3-year deal. 3 years, 24 years old, walks him to UFA probably. So I would say he gets a 2-year deal. And from there, they determine, okay, how long are we going to extend him? But I do think that, you know, Gritsuk is a guy, like Jack said, can be part of the core. So for now, I say bridge. Um, that won't break the bank. He'll be happy to probably make $2-3 million. And then, you move forward from there. We'll see what happens with Nemec. That's obviously going to be priority number one. Kind of like how Fitzgerald said Luke Hughes was this summer. You just hope it doesn't take as long. All right, let's get to our last one here from Avina1223. I know this guy. He's a close friend of mine, but he wants to know what's the word on Brett Pesce. Is he returning? Last time I've seen him was Lethal Weapon 3. He's skating, and that's expected because his injury is a hand injury. So it's not going to stop him from getting on the ice, but he has been skating on his own. But the last we heard from Sheldon Keefe was that he's not close. It's funny, actually, now that I think about it. There are a lot of hand injuries on this team with Pesce, Dadonov, and Jack. But yeah, he'll be back, just not anytime in the near future. I'm starting to wonder if that means after the holiday. If they can get him before that, it would be a Christmas miracle. Maybe we'll have two Christmas miracles in one and have Jack and Brett return at the same time. And we will see, how they develop there. But I think that's going to be it for today. I'm going to wrap up this Black Friday edition of the Devils Rink Report. Thank you so much for showing up. If you like this kind of content, please hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, please. We need as much help from you guys as we can, just because, again, the more you support us, the more we can do this kind of thing that we love giving to you so much. And listen, you guys seem to love it, right? You keep saying how much you love it. The shows are great, and we super appreciate the kind words. More great guests coming, more great shows coming. Maybe we'll do more, throughout the week if you give us a reason to. But smash that subscribe, smash that like button, share with your friends. Thanks so much for joining us today on Devils Rink Report. And we'll see you next week for your regularly scheduled programming, 3:30 p.m. on Friday. Until next time, signing out.